that's located south of the Apollo Gardens, Foxfire Apartments, 51st Street, south of 51st Street, west of Lamar. This really is the last large piece of vacant, undeveloped ground in the city of Mission. It has had a plan that's come before the Planning Commission and the Council for approval. It was actually a senior living project back in 2006, 2007. It was a project that was slightly bigger than this one. It did not. It went through all the steps, and for a number of reasons, the project did not get built, and the developer can touch on that. It is the same ownership that's moving this project forward. This project that's before you this evening is a little bit different. It's not age restricted. It's market rate apartments with a certain level of amenities that will be described to you. The developer does indicate to us that they do foresee having a little bit of a financing gap, and they want to have some discussions with you at the council about how to bridge that gap. So normally what we do in this kind of case, in this kind of project, above and beyond going through the planning approval process, we do the first step is before we start any discussions, and we do a pre-development agreement with the developer. And what that does is a couple of things. It says we will talk to the developer for the number of months, and only the developer for this particular site. Understand that this site is owned by them, so there's really not very many other people we can be talking to. And the developer does put a deposit down and reimburses us for the expenses that we will incur as we review their application. That's what we do at this point. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to Jim. Jim Bowers, attorney representing the developer with White Goss. I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Martin. Martin did a good job of summarizing the pre-development agreement and what we're here to talk to you about. I represent the developer in this case, which is Launch Development, Inc., and the sister company, Mission Development, LLC, which owns the land. So there are these two entities that are entering into an agreement, pre-development agreement with the city of Mission. Launch Development was formed in 2006 by two individuals, Greg Latterwood, who's with me tonight, seated in the front row, and his partner, Kurt Roden. They have been in the apartment development business for the last 23 years, and since 2006, under the auspices of Launch Development, Inc. They have developed in the greater Kansas City metropolitan area approximately 2,000 apartment units with a value of $200 million. These are 10 separate projects. Right now there is a project that they're finishing the development of in Johnson County called Manor Homes of Prairie Trace, and it consists of 280 apartment units. These are market rate apartments located at the southeast corner of 135th and US 69 Highway near the Corinth Square Shopping Center. This project construction was commenced in 2013. They will finish construction this year, completing the 280 units. These units are leased at an average market rate of about $1.20 per square foot. This is a very high-end project, high-end amenities, including 24-hour fitness center, clubhouse, large digital TV screen outdoors with outdoor kitchens and 2 restaurants. It's a very nice project, and I would encourage any of you who are interested in looking at the type of project we're talking about to drive by this project at the southeast corner of 135th and US 69 Highway. Launch specializes in these types of projects, and one of the questions Martin asked me to address was what's different this time about the project. Since Launch owned the property in 2006, why should you look at this project any differently than what we did then? What was proposed in 2006 was an independent living facility. And at the time, independent living facilities were well thought of in the marketplace. And after you approved the project, we got bank financing and equity financing to build that project. However, the bank required a 50% lease-up of those units prior to the commencement of construction. So they would not release construction funding until 50% of the units had been leased. We obtained 30% of the units leased up when the financial crisis hit, when the housing market went in the dumps, when financial institutions across the world collapsed. So timing couldn't have been any worse. We were unable to reach the 50% level, even though we continued to try for some time with a first-rate marketing team. So there was no lack of effort on our part. You might say, what happened to those 30% of the folks who made pre-deposits, pre-leases? Many of them were about to retire or had retired and were living on 401k income, and the value of their portfolios plummeted as well as the stock market plummeted. And so many of them wanted out of their agreement, and we allowed them to get out of the agreement and refunded their deposits, and everyone was made whole. We did that with respect to every one of those persons who pre-leased the unit with us. So there was no financial damage from our end, at least, with respect to those folks in those transactions. As time progressed, and as we realized that the independent living facility idea was losing favor in the marketplace, which it has, since then, a new, more, I'll call it modern concept of assisted living and memory care has come into the marketplace and has basically replaced the independent living facility as the project of choice. As I said, Launch is not in that business. This was their first endeavor to engage in the independent living facility, and it didn't work for reasons beyond their control. And so they've had gone through a spell after that failed, trying to sell the property, trying to market it. They hired a first-class marketing firm in Kansas City, Missouri, Block & Company, to market the property, and it's been marketed very aggressively. The problem has been that because of the financial crisis and the foreclosure that have occurred throughout the area, there are a number of properties that have been sold below market by the banks after they've foreclosed on those properties, getting those properties off their books. So there have been fire sales, in effect, that have depressed the market. And we've been unable to sell, despite our aggressive efforts, that property. And so Kurt and Craig came to the decision a little over a year ago that they wanted to develop this as a market rate apartment project. And when we got our architect involved in developing the initial concept plans, which we're going to show you in a minute, about this project, we realized that because of the topography of the site and the site conditions, we were unable to get the density of apartment units on this project that is necessary to meet the marketplace without constructing below-grade parking. The density of units on site precludes surface parking. So we now have a situation where we're forced to go underground or below grade to construct parking underneath the units. That drives the costs off the chart and makes the project financially infeasible without some assistance. And that's where the gap comes in this project. And we have a project that will cost, estimated cost is about $25 million to build this project. And we believe the gap in this case is somewhere around $5 to $6 million. And so those are the incentives that we're looking to discuss with you. And what the pre-development agreement allows us to do is to discuss the details of those arrangements that are acceptable to you and to us, and to allow the project to go forward. Without the pre-development agreement, of course, we're back to ground zero. So that's the overview of what we're proposing. And Chris Klein with Confluence, a local architectural firm, is here to discuss with you the details of the plan and to make some comparisons for you that I think you'll find interesting. Chris?
Thank you.
Let's take a few minutes to walk through the site plan. Have you seen this before? Or
Chris, can you maybe move
Sure.
it over just a little bit more?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Does that help?
Yep.
Try to keep it out of the projector. So north is up. Here's 51st Street. The site is bordered by single-family homes up here, and then apartments here, and apartments here. And we've got a site that's about 50 foot of grade difference. So it's low here and up 50 feet taller right here. So there's a pretty steep slope. We've got two different types of units that are proposed for the project. One that is a double courtyard type of unit at 3-story buildings with parking underneath. And then a smaller building that's a 2-story building that has 10 units in each of them, all with attached garages. You can come into the garage and go right into the unit. We've looked at several different arrangements of different types of buildings, different units felt like this was the optimal solution in trying to address the way that the project fits in with the context of the neighborhood. The houses that sit up here are at about elevation 1025, and by placing these lower units, the smaller units that are 2 stories, and tucking them into the hill, the idea here was to build some retaining walls here and drop the elevation and kind of niche it into the hill, so that the tops of these units are almost commensurate with the tops of the houses that are here. So the previous proposal, I think, had a 4-story building here. This is a 2-story building that's tucked into the hill. We tried to place surface parking where we can on the site, but obviously we've got lots of slopes and we can't build retaining walls along the entire site. So we tried to place parking where it's conducive for residents and conducive for use of the clubhouse and pool, and then provide a network of streets that leads into each of the garages underneath these units, and then provides access to all the units throughout the project. Initial concepts for stormwater capture are to incorporate stormwater areas here, as well as try to create a feature here near the main entrance of the project.
So towards a retention pond?
Yeah, we're looking at retention or detention, or it could be a dry basin that has water in it during a storm event. And those are all details that we haven't quite gotten into, the exact size of those facilities, but the concept is to try to create a feature here and an area here to address stormwater concerns. So I just want to give you a high-level overview of the project. There's 92 units in each of these buildings and 10 units in each of these buildings, so a total of about 204 units. It's about almost a 10-acre site, and there's the amount of parking is about 2 parking stalls per unit, which is what's needed to support market rate apartments for this type of project. So with that, I'd be happy to try to answer any other questions that you have. But, just want to give you a general overview.
Amy?
So how many units were planned in 2007?
203.
203.
And how many are planned now?
204.
And what was the parking situation in 2007?
Included underground parking also,
It did.
but it's a totally different concept, because that concept of independent living had an equity buy-in. It's a totally different business model, where they're not really comparable as far as the cost. The cost of the other project was almost $40 million with the same number of units, but it contained 2 actual full restaurants. But because of the equity buy-in, which is the independent living business model, totally different than market rate apartments.
And equity buy-in means that instead of being just a pure tenant, that a person wanting to live there actually purchases the unit, and then in addition to that, pays monthly rent. And at the time they want to divest themselves of the unit, they have the right to sell the unit back at an adjusted market rate. So it's quite a bit different than a traditional market rate apartment property.
And when was this zoned for multi-family? When was this area zoned?
This property, I believe, was rezoned to RP5, which allows for senior housing with the 2006 to 2007 project. This would actually have to be rezoned for this project to move forward. It would have to be rezoned to another category. It has been in our comprehensive plan designated as high-density residential for some time, as long as I've been with the city. So it's been a while.
The plan prior to our plan in 2006, I believe, that approved like 249 or 269 units.
So you're just doing the pre-development agreement tonight, and then you'll get back with the council on options for funding and city assist we can give versus cost-benefit analysis to the city.
Right. What would happen if the council decides to move forward with this pre-development agreement is two parallel paths that will at some point maybe meet in the future. And one is going to be the planning and zoning process. There would have to be a plan that's submitted. There would have to be notices sent to the neighbors about the project because it's gonna require all new rezonings and hearings before the planning commission, all of that going on. And then at the same time also, I assume it'll be coming back before before this committee, the Finance Amendment Committee, for review of the financial and the request of the developer. We don't know what that is yet. We haven't even gone into those conversations yet. This is the first step. But after all that happens, then at some point, what we have intended to do in the past is we bring all that back to the city council at one time.
Pat?
You said that was changed to an R5 zoning?
Yeah. RP5.
Yeah. And what was it before that? What was it changed from?
I would have to go back and look. I want to say R4, but I would have to go back and look, and I can certainly do that. I have to go back and look at the file.
And the R4 is what we would want to be changing it
I
back.
think we had said about R6 in this case, right? R6 is high density residential, which what we do when there's any kind of rezoning application, we immediately go back and look at what the comprehensive plan says. And the comprehensive plan, in this case, supports that kind of zoning, I'll say that right now. And there's a number of properties around here that have that zoning. Now, understand that right to the east of that is single-family residential, so that always has the potential of being an item of concern. In 2006-07, with that last plan, it wasn't. There was not a protest petition that was filed. It actually got the approval from the city. It was a pretty straightforward process back then.
Good. Amy?
Is there any interest to make it, since rezoning has to happen, and I get rezoning between different types of residential is different, but any interest in retail, making a retail project instead of?
I don't think that location is for retail. We do not develop retail, so typically, it's really in a neighborhood type location, so.
Surrounded by tons of apartments and have ready, depending on what retail you put in there, restaurants or whatnot.
Thank you.
Well, I'd be interested to see what staff and development come up with, so I would be supporting the pre-development agreement.
Take it to council for consent.
I would too. I would also say that even the multi-development facet fits in with the apartment genre along that whole area. Makes sense, I think.
I mean, there's a lot of good that come from this. I mean, you're looking at a lot of tired properties that are surrounding this, and, it may not be the first time that we have a pre-development agreement in front of us, but if this one moves forward and is successful, could be a lot of positive things that come from it. But be a good problem to have. So,
The access 535 is excellent. I mean, you can get all over the Kansas City metro area from that area real quickly.
When we say all roads lead to Mission, at some point, everybody in Johnson County lived right there. That's exactly right.
And there's not been any brand new apartment complexes in Northeast Johnson County. These people are really looking for new places to live. I would not put it on consent, just like to talk about it and get the people excited about it.
You got it?
And you all do, it's not shown on this map, but in 2006, you did an apartment project just north of Fox Ridge, or 51st Street, I'm sorry, correct?
Correct, we did 10 units at the time, those were.
Right up here.
Yeah.
And Laura also sent me some more of your developments in the Kansas City area. If you guys would like to get those two, just holler and email them to you. Belton, Lisa, and that's Raymore.
We'll just send that out to everybody.
Yep,
Sure.
Thank you. Anything else?
Kind of glad you couldn't sell it.
Yeah.
Let's go to the city council in 2 weeks.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Next, order of business is letter of support from Brinshore Development. Martin?
Chris, have you taken this or will you ask Chris?
Same in mind.
There you go. Turn off?
It just turns off and it goes all the way back to the start on one.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Oh, it came back. Last time it went
That's,
back to the-
take this off. Take the screen off. That's the back cover. Leave it off. Okay, sorry, some logistics here. As you know, the council approved in June and July the first and second amendment to the purchase and pre-development agreement with Brinshore Development for the sale and ultimate potential development of an affordable senior housing project at 7080 Martway. That was approved because this project is dependent on low-income housing tax credits being awarded by the state, and that was submitted in 2014, early 2014. Those were not awarded. There were 51 applications that were submitted. Correct my numbers, please, Todd, if I can get them right. This project ranked 19 in the top 17 received funds, so it was pretty close to receiving the awards. In 2014, it did not. Brinshore Development, and Todd Lieberman is here with Brinshore Development, did approach the city and asked for an extension, allowed to try again in 2015 and see if making maybe a couple of tweaks to the project, hoping that the scoring criteria change favorably, and trying again and having this project actually be funded by the Kansas Housing Resource Corporation in 2015. That was approved by the City Council in July of 16, so now this property remains under contract with Brinshore through, I believe, July of 2015. The council has also done a couple of different things since then. Council has approved a demolition contract, and we have issued the notice to proceed for abatement and demolition of that building, and that will be happening here very shortly. It's in the process of permitting and getting the paperwork right, and that building is going to be coming down very shortly. With the second amendment to the purchase and pre-development agreement, Brinshore Development is going to be depositing 50% of the cost of that demolition, and that cost is that constitutes additional earnest money as towards the sale price of this property. So they will be doing that prior to the demolition of the building. Also, the City Council approved last month the creation of a tax increment financing redevelopment district that can benefit this project if it moves forward, although it can also benefit any other project in the future if this project were not to move forward. So a number of steps have happened in the past 6-7 months. The very next item on the agenda is our Brinshore Development is ready to submit a new application for 2015 tax credits to the state, and they do require a number of documents from the city. One is a resolution of support that was included in your packet, a draft resolution of support, and some letters of support. Thankfully, we have done these once before, all in 2014. So we took those documents from 2014 and we tweaked some of the language. We did put that in your packet so you can see what changes we have made, and those are ready to be submitted again. If approved by the council and if submitted to the state, we expect notification from the state in May or so these funds are awarded. I do want to point one thing out. We did receive some comments on one of the letters, and we went ahead and made some corrections. And it's a letter that would be, now let's go ahead and pass these out, please. It's a letter that would go out from the mayor to Fred Bentley with Kansas Housing Resource Corporation. And it just has to do with some updating of some of the language and some of the projects we were referencing back in 14. Some of the names have changed. Some projects were under construction, now they're not. So we just have to update that information. Everything that got changed is highlighted in yellow. So with that, recommendation of support for this moving forward. This is the next step in the process to get this project before the state for review. I will say that without the issuance of the low-income housing tax credit, this project is dependent on this. Without this project would not move forward.
Can I ask you just a terminology question? Mostly we've talked about independent living, we've talked about senior living. It's the first time I've noticed it's called elderly. Is there a difference between senior and elderly?
Todd, I will defer this one to you.
Hi, good to see you all again. Happy holidays. I'm glad to be back here. You know, I think terminology is just different in each industry. When we say elderly here, it's 62 and older. Some people have different definitions that are no longer really, I don't think are fair to say elderly, frankly. And then independent living is a whole another ball of wax, like you heard. This is this is really just a requirement that people who live in this building will be 62 and older.
One other question that came up. there was, every application's talked about low income.
Yeah.
Senior housing. And then before the first of the year, there was some piece of paper that got circulated that talked about a mix of low income senior housing with either no restrictions or, but it talked about for the first time a mix of incomes, or it was picked up for the first time.
Yeah.
It was a mix of incomes. So if you could provide some clarification.
Yeah, sure. So the financing vehicle we use, the low-income housing tax credit program, supports the construction of just the income restricted units. However, the state in their plan provides points, competitive points in this application if you have a couple of units that are set aside as unrestricted units. So the trick with the application is to make sure that you're meeting both the financing needs of the project, but also the policy goals of the state so that you maximize your scoring. In this case, it's having a couple of units that are unrestricted. So let's say a senior comes in and they're making slightly over the income limit and they want to live here. This allows you to have a unit so they're not turned away.
And the state looks favorably upon that because of the blend of economics there?
I think that's what the specific language is. You receive a couple of points if you receive 2 points for every 5% of the project that is over, that includes unrestricted market rate units.
So total number of units, numbers that are unrestricted?
32 units total, 2 will be unrestricted.
Okay.
So it's an affordable housing development. We call it sometimes mixed income in some cases because it's just, that's really what it is. In this
that was
case.
the phrase, the term of art we heard.
Yeah, and it's, you know, I don't want to get into too much sort of detail, but HUD has a totally different definition of what mixed income is. It involves public housing, but I think it's most representative of this project. There is a mixture. It's not 100% affordable, but it's mostly affordable.
Okay, thank you.
And Todd, this low-income housing is for how long a period?
Sure. So the initial compliance period is 15 years, and you get an additional 15 points if you agree to waive your ability to opt out after 15 years and keep it affordable for another 15 years. So for points purposes, and really what happens with a lot of these developments is you go for the full 30 years in order to be competitive with the state.
And if there's somebody in there who is living in low-income rental and the 15 years is up, how does that?
So the program allows for 3 years after the compliance period where you cannot terminate someone's lease based on income, and the rents can only rise according to the program. So it really is 30, it'll end up being like 33 years. And in practice, you know, it's never really a problem that we've had to deal with because a lot of our projects have an extended use period over 30 years. In that period of time, we're happy to create a policy for how people are notified and help them with finding housing, but there is a 3-year sort of window where you know kind of what's happening.
Wonderful, thank you so much.
I move forward with support of these resolutions.
And let me answer one other, go ahead.
Has there been any, I was just wondering with the, publishing of us, demolishing the existing property that is there, has there been any interest in this site from other, because prior to that, there had been no other interest other than Brinshore. Has there been any interest from people since?
Let me take that.
In the last few months or so?
Yeah, we do get questions on different parcels, and we have gotten questions on this one, but you have to understand that the property is under contract with the city council. So until the property is no longer under contract, then we don't have those conversations. But we will get a question every now and then with what is the contract amount? When is the contract? How long? What's the term of that contract? When does it expire? And things like that. So we have had a couple quick raises. Yes.
Well, you may recall, I think in November, maybe we brought to the committee, we'd been approached by someone interested in not demolishing the building and reusing the building. And I think the council's direction at that point was, So we have had, in fact, I think, and this person didn't identify themselves even when asked. I had a call last week asking about that property, that sitting on property.
And I get the, what are we giving up, to have it under contract. Where I find comfort is, not forgetting the term of art, the study that we did, it was called the, not the but-for, but
The
the.
lost opportunity
opportunity.
cost.
Thank you, that's the term for it, the lost opportunity. And I mean, really what it showed you was, it's a really difficult site, even under the best economic conditions to ever develop it. So I'm hopeful that this one works. If it doesn't, then at least have a scrape site, then Brinshore helped us clean up. So.
I think the other question I've heard that I know Todd had provided some information to us on was if there would be preference given to Mission residents for leasing. And Todd, let me try this, and if I get it wrong, so you have some restrictions because of federal fair housing requirements, so you can't give preference in the leasing process for 100% of the units, but 70% of the units would be made available kind of first to Mission residents. So it's not a guarantee going forward, but in that initial lease-up period, there would be preference given for Mission residents.
That's exactly right.
I've got a question. We're gonna know, you said by May, sometime in May probably, whether or not they get the state funds, and without the state funds, there's no project, then why does the development agreement go until December 31st? I mean, is that gonna keep us from talking to anybody else until December, even though they're out in May or June?
December
I'm saying they'll be out, I'm just, just in case.
Well, if the funds, let's assume the funds do get awarded.
Right.
I believe they will, just based on how the points worked out last time around, and of course we don't know what other projects will be submitted. But let's assume those funds do get awarded. The council will at that point have to finish, it hasn't started yet, the tax increment financing redevelopment project plan. So the actual discussion of what the incentive actually is. And also finish the planning and zoning process, not the rezoning, but the plan approval. Those are two things that most developers you will see will try to get done and completed before they actually close on the property. It doesn't make a lot of sense to invest a lot of our time and their time before we know, 85% of your budget is in place. So once those tax credits are in place, if we know they're in place, then the project is it's in pretty solid footing. That's when the TIF and the plan gets filed for review by the city.
Okay, now look at the other option. What happens if it doesn't, if they don't get the money from the state? Then
I think there may be a trigger in the agreement that
Yeah.
allows us to terminate. So it was
Yeah.
written to
That's
allow.
what I want to know, yeah.
Right, and
Yeah.
we can go,
Yeah.
we'll double check that, but I believe there is a trigger that if they don't get the tax credits, it allows us to terminate that agreement. The December 31st simply goes if they were, and that gives us the
Right.
time
No,
to
I
get for the
understand
rest.
that,
But I
yeah.
think that
Yeah.
triggers there, and we'll confirm
so we've got
that.
a way to pursue other options if that doesn't
Right.
happen. Okay.
Okay, so this is just an action item on letters of support for Brinshore.
I support it.
Can I add one more question before we continue this? At what point will we be able to see any change that you've made in the design?
As soon as we find out whether we got the tax credits, we'll come back to the city and go through a design review process. And we'll get a special seat for you.
We're doing it in secrecy.
Yeah.
We'll never, ever be able to.
Right.
I continue to support the letters of support.
On consent?
Fine with me.
Is that with me? Is that with you?
No.
No, she doesn't support it.
You know, I think any big branch, any development like that, I don't see it as consent. People
We
need to
go
know
ahead and
what's
put it
going
on the
in
action
city.
item and we'll read something out. Especially since we did have questions last time on most, the word most. So we can add that in there and just let everybody know.
I would also
The mission
recommend for
residents.
continuity that we go back to senior instead of elderly, because that gives a whole new,
Well,
every other development like that is senior, or the elderly's not
So the
been put
question
in
is,
this.
in this letter, we define seniors as age 65 and above. So if seniors, in this letter specifically, it says, talks about missions 26.2% seniors age 65 and above. And if he's saying age 62 is elderly, then I don't want to confuse.
Could I answer that? That's actually based on the data. The data doesn't break out 62. So when we looked at the data from the census, it looks at 65 and above,
Right.
or 60, so I just took 65.
Right, and I think if we say senior here and it's specifically calling out elderly, I don't see 62, elderly defined as 62 and above anywhere, so I just think it'd be confusing. So I don't know how to address your issue, Debbie, I just am concerned since it is specifically called out.
Maybe I could work with staff on a note that explains the difference between 65 and 62.
It doesn't matter
Or you
to
can
me.
just change the terminology back to senior.
That's fine.
Yeah.
It's
That would
flexible.
help.
But, I'm sorry, now I'm making this about an issue that I don't understand, is if you say senior, and then in the documentation it says senior 65 and above, I think he brings up an excellent point that it's open to 62, which is 3 years difference. Again, I think it's important to say, hey, look, we're opening this up to even a younger senior population than before, so calling it senior and senior, I think is confusing.
Is that what the state of Kansas allows you on that senior housing is 62 and above? for
62 and older is what we're,
62 and older, right.
and again, the 65 and older is based on the data we wanted to provide this, help the
That's
city to work
when they
on.
started the statistics?
Yeah,
Sorry.
Thank you.
but it's a good point, it's an inconsistency.
Is it any problem legally with the terminology? Okay, I just didn't want to,
I don't think so.
Okay.
We'll look at it.
Yeah.
okay. So that would be on the action items 2. And the third one, is anybody have any other questions? The third one would be recommendation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Third one would be recommendation for chairperson for the CDC committee, and I'd like to put my name forward for the chairman.
Absolutely.
Would that be
Now you
okay?
need a great, now you need a co-chair.
Thank you, and I would like to put Pat Quinn, he has not been.
A chair,
He was a
co-chair.
co-chair before.
No,
Yes,
we-
a co-chair.
Under finance. He
But I
did
would do
a
it, yes.
bang-up job too.
Thank you. Would that be?
That's fine with me.
Go for it.
Wonderful, thank
You
you.
can put
that on the consent.
Consent, thank you. The next up for discussion is Public Works Cyber
Jennifer
Connection.
Ramrod.
Yeah.
Public Works Cyber Connection.
Thank you,
Cyber
John.
connection.
You want to take
Yeah,
this one?
sometime in the last couple of years, we were approached by Johnson County and their IT department with a fiber build-out plan that they were looking at countywide to serve their facilities. It was a multi-phase plan, they didn't have any funding allocated to it, but it kind of just kind of generally mapped out. And they thought at that point that phase 1 of their fiber expansion project was going to be running from the northeast offices here in Mission up to the wastewater treatment plant off of Fox Ridge Drive. So I think that's why they started the conversation with us a couple of years ago. Would we be interested in connecting or connecting our public works facility as a part of that process? Back in 2009, we connected City Hall and the Community Center to the northeast offices. They tied into Overland Park's fiber at Lamar and China Mission Parkway, ran that to their northeast offices, and then we paid about $17,000 to run that fiber from their northeast offices to the community center here, and it's been great. We don't pay for internet service here. We don't lose connectivity unless somebody actually cuts the fiber. Before, we were on some microwave towers and it was a little iffy. So that's been a really good investment for us since 2009. Had these conversations with the county, didn't really go anywhere, hadn't heard anything, and probably about December 10th, I got an email that said, hey, we are thinking we're ready to move on the fiber project. Are you guys still interested? Sure. Let's have a conversation. So we've been meeting with them over the last couple of weeks, and they had originally rephased their project, and they ran, rather than starting with the wastewater treatment plant, they actually were running fiber out to New Century, the airport, and the detention facility out there. So they kind of flip-flopped some things around. Well, apparently wastewater, the end of the year, their budget looked better than what they anticipated, and they had enough money in their budget to run fiber to their facility. So it got moved up on the priority list, and it's about a $225,000, $250,000 investment to run it there. So they came back to us and said, are you interested in, oh, by the way, we're really ready to start tomorrow on this project. And as well, it's about a $20,000, somewhere between $20,000 and $22,000 investment in total for us to make that connection.
To 22.
So we're still working on the final
Okay.
numbers, but that's kind of where we started a couple of years ago, and that's where we are today. We think that,
They just have to run it from that pole there by the trip over you, right?
If it was only that.
if it were only that simple.
Pat's got it. He's got it under control. We'll just get his shovel
They're
out.
taking it to the wastewater facility. They gotta go right by there.
Yeah, and then they do, and then they're gonna go from wastewater, actually, because they now provide IT support to the cities of Roland Park and Fairway, so they're gonna go from the wastewater treatment plant then over to Roland Park's community center. They came in and applied for a right-of-way permit, K&W Underground, because it's got to cross Lamar and Johnson Drive. And we said, woo, time out. We really
Very partial
need
that
to have, well, I thought Emily was gonna have a stroke the day that we started talking about this. But we said, no, time out. You know, we don't have the ability not to do that, but we need to really have a sit-down meeting and be very thoughtful about how we cross that intersection, whether we connect to you at our public works facility or not. So we had that meeting yesterday. It all runs together. Yesterday,
Yes.
it was yesterday because you were just back.
Yes.
So we sat down with them to talk about that, and I think we've got some great solutions to get across the street. They're still working.
Give us some details.
Well, go above. No, they can't go above.
We did ask that question.
We did ask that question. They would have to go underneath the street, but John was going to provide them with some as-built and the drawings. Typically, they think they can get across there. I mean, the AT&T duct banks in the street are really the biggest concern, as well as the stormwater structures. So they originally wanted to go at about a 10-foot depth. They're going to have to come up in order to be on top of the stormwater boxes. So they've still got.
Or do they have to cut the street?
They can bore that, and they think they can probably, through the manholes, really limit the coring that they actually have to do.
Typically when they bore across a utility, they want to expose it so they see it.
Mhm.
That way they don't poke a hole right in the side of it. But they said, like with the AT&T manholes, being that those manholes are so close, if they can pull the lids and see where it's coming into the manhole, that'll give them a gauge on where it is depth-wise. So that way they can kind of go ahead and go past that if they can verify where it is coming in the manhole.
How long are they talking?
For the entire thing,
No, for Johnson Drive.
it shouldn't take them very long at all.
How long's not very long?
I was gonna say, give us a definition.
Thing's been under construction for 9
know.
months.
Well,
I mean, it's maddening.
And the thing about it is with directional drilling, it's far, far less invasive.
I get that, but still the boring,
I know.
compromise of all.
So they can't run it in that AT&T channel that's.
AT&T runs east-west, they're running north-south.
Oh, yeah.
They've got it
And-
all south.
Yeah, they typically don't want it coexisting in the
So
same.
what does this have to do with Google Fiber?
Absolutely nothing. Completely separate from Google Fiber.
Because we're connecting to services being provided by Johnson County?
It's Johnson County's, yes. So Johnson County owns the fiber network. Will own the fiber network that we would be connecting to.
And we need to connect to their fiber network instead of connecting to Google Fiber to get to their network.
We would connect to their network because we don't know when Google Fiber might come back and actually install fiber in our community. So the question is, I mean, that's really the question.
Right.
But Johnson County Public Works is going to run fiber right past our Public Works facility right now, as opposed to any other service provider. And we have an opportunity to connect to that for $20,000 to $22,000. We currently pay $1,200 a month for internet service at the Public Works facility, which we would no longer have that cost. So the payback for that is, less than 2 years, and then you eliminate that cost going forward.
So,
But then,
connecting to them, I'm sorry.
but then we would want Google Fiber when Google Fiber comes to our city.
No,
Not necessarily.
not at our, no, we wouldn't need it there.
We need it in the city.
But we have an agreement with Google to provide fiber for free to the city offices, buildings.
What we're finding is it's typically one
Yeah.
city facility. So it wouldn't be all of our city facilities.
And the only outstanding city facility is Public Works, or is there other outstanding city facilities? I'm sorry, I didn't.
So we could, for example, switch here over to Google Fiber if we wanted. We could look at some other options for that.
But we already have Johnson County Fiber.
We do have Johnson County Fiber.
Right, so,
And for us, I think with the county fiber, we know it's going there. The speeds that they're talking about are essentially the same as Google. And, you know, we're still, we don't have a firm date on when Google's gonna be here. So for us, I think it's, you're kind of taken care
It's a
of.
community center.
what if we waited 2 years, and then what would Johnson County?
We can ask that question. I mean, they're gonna run it to their facility regardless, so.
Is it gonna cost us 20 to 22 now, 20 to 22 then?
I would think at whatever point, the cost will be the same, at whatever point we would connect into their fiber
I
system.
would-
I think that's 24 months of lost Candy Crush soccer for John, is what
And-
We can
and
ask that question about, you know.
It may be
tax
more
on
expensive if you did it later, just due to the fact that they have to come back and do that one separately. Whereas if they're here doing it all now, just
that. It makes sense, because they gotta run it right by your front door.
Well, I don't know, but it also makes sense that Google would be free.
If it ever comes.
Well, why wouldn't it come?
Well, look, I don't know their business plan, but I would guarantee 66202 is not at the top of their list.
Doesn't seem to be.
County.
We voted on, what, a year ago? 2
Well, it's been
years
more
ago?
than that, and our understanding
Right,
is.
we do this
that they-
now, 2 years from now, we're more than whole, and we know what we're gonna get with the county. To me, that one is a no-brainer. The bigger deal I've got is, how they're gonna treat Lamar and Johnson Drive. Are they out of their minds? I'm serious.
Yeah,
It's been under construction for 9 months.
I did
What's
about
the
half.
They
government
just
think?
now thought of it.
Well, no, again, and
No,
it's
they
because
weren't ready
they
for it.
flipped their, you know.
I get it.
I
I'll leave it
know.
into your capable
No,
day-to-day
it's-
hands to make sure that you preserve the intersection, but.
Right.
You have to hear from people.
Well, and
Oh,
that
yeah,
was the
we'll be
biggest thing when
heartbroken.
this permit came across my desk. I'm like, are you guys crazy that you're,
Yes.
I mean, we haven't worn the new off of this yet. You're showing up now. So we wanted to make it very clear to
It's a
KNW
great story right now.
and Johnson County that, you know, whatever, you know, you end up doing in that intersection, I mean, it's gonna be the.
It's your responsibility and it needs to be done quick and.
And we need to make sure that it's got enough room in there, whatever they put in there, that anything in the future that comes up, it has to go across the outside.
They're actually gonna pull a spare conduit with it as they go, so they have an extra.
Can we make them hire Emily to be on site tomorrow?
Yeah.
Well, we probably
Put up
should.
a tent, I'll just be there. I'll just be there the whole time.
Stay quick.
And yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of a shock to all of us when that showed up and the flag started going.
Well, look, I don't live here, I mean, I'm not on the management team, I'm not day to day, so I trust you guys will make sure that however they cross it there, they will cross it in a way that is the least invasive, and doesn't damage the major investment that has been made, but sure seems like they could have been more in front of this. I mean,
Yeah.
as, in regards to what's on the agenda, I think it is a no-brainer to connect with Public Works to the Johnson County Fiber, given the fact that we'll be made whole in less than 2 years. And it gets the last city building on the same network with everybody else.
Let's take it to council.
This is a discussion item.
Well, and look, because I just got yesterday when we had our meeting, the quote to go from Lamar into the Public Works building, and what I'm still waiting on is then the rest of the county piece for firm numbers. If I have those firm numbers, would it be,
I want to see it all. and that's
Don't
why
want to
I'm
vote on
voting it.
something until
I don't
you
want to
know
vote
the
on it
definitive
unless.
Well, Amy,
answer.
can I offer one caveat to that? Provided that waiting an extra,
Month?
what would essentially be 45 days from tonight, not prevent us from connecting it or tying it. So as long as that's
No, I
not the
don't-
case.
I'll find that out.
I agree with
I
you,
don't
the
know.
ideal way is to bring it back to a committee meeting and then to council. But if we can't have it perfect, I'd at least like to have it good, which is we can discuss it at council in 2 weeks and vote on it. But I agree that would be more ideal.
You said it was time sensitive, but you didn't think it was that time sensitive.
I mean, I think
That
if
we
we have to
couldn't get
push
a
it to
definitive
February,
number.
we'll just have to say, we
That's
can't,
what we
you know, we
voted.
can't
Sure.
we have to get it through our committee process, which, you know, again,
Now, if you find out different, you can let us know.
So they're gonna take it there anyway.
Right. So you think they could just?
Huh?
we don't have, again, we don't have any reason not to approve the right-of-way permit. And, you know, there's nothing that would allow us to.
But we could make a lot of noise about it. We could certainly slow
Right.
it down. We could, you know, give Dan all kinds of great stories to write about, get the star in here. And of course, we could slow this thing down. Yes, we could. We may not be able to stop it,
Right.
but.
And what they said is they will start at the they're starting at the Roland Park end. So they've started on the other end and will work the other direction. So they're gonna make those connections first to give us more time to make sure everybody's on the same page with all of this. Because it was literally within 2 days of, hey, we think we wanna do this, and John has the right-of-way permit application
So
on his
where-
desk, and then it's the holidays and nobody can have a meeting.
Where does the $22,000 come from? We're at the budget.
It would come from John's public works budget, and then we would just repay.
We just
over
cut
time.
something else out, because our budgets are pretty lean.
Well, the thing about it is once you have that connectivity, you're done with the Time Warner. Time Warner, the
So
$1,200
$1,200 a month is just public works and public works only.
Correct.
And there is a rate increase, just so you know. Up to $13 a month.
So,
Okay, so we'll continue to gather information.
Shuffle that.
That'd be great.
But at the same time though, even if it's not what we want to hear, if you say, look, guys, we have got to move on this in 2 weeks at city council, even though some of us might be upset with you, tell us so we can, because I don't want to miss the opportunity, all right?
And my only point is, I just don't want to get into a situation where we're doing these things, like here it is, Wednesday you walk in for a council meeting at 7 o'clock, and at 6 o'clock I got a packet with information. So the information comes as soon as possible.
I don't think there's
I'm
any
more-
missing the opportunity.
No,
I don't
think so.
either. I mean, I don't
Because
see any reason to
They
rush
have
this
to run
off.
it
Yeah.
across Johnson Drive, they have to run it
All right,
down
well, since
Lamar
I
to
don't
get
pull
it to the
cable, I don't know
wastewater.
anything about fiber, and maybe you know everything. All
I
I'm
don't
saying
know
is,
everything,
I
but
just
you
want to
have
make
to
sure
get
we
it
don't
there.
miss it. I just don't want to miss it.
I understand that, but they have to get it there to the wastewater place.
Yes, they do.
So it's gonna be going right down there anyway. We can do it next month, and if they're halfway through the project, I have already come across Johnson Drive, it's not gonna affect us getting it connected down here.
And if it does, you can let us
All right,
know, but
fiber
other
guru,
than,
perfect.
Bob did.
we'll have more definitive,
We'll just
hopefully.
tell them the council's not willing to act on it until they,
Tell us how much.
we'll continue to follow up with them on that.
Thank you. And you have one more.
I do have one item under other business. So, and I thought we had talked about this at committee, but we couldn't find it in the minutes. So the Countryside Homes Association has approached us again about an additional mowing for their right-of-way. Consistent with our policy, we mow KDOT right-of-way once a month under our KLM city mowing contract, and you said, sure, if you're gonna stop mowing it, we'll add it to the list, which we did this year. We said,
So wait a minute.
it's gonna be,
You're gonna stop mowing, we'll add it to the list. So who is you stop mowing and who is we?
Countryside was mowing, and city council has a policy that you adopted, I don't remember the year, but you adopted several years ago that said because we want KDOT doesn't mow frequently enough for our standards, and so we will add to our mowing contract KDOT owned right-of-ways. And for those that are not being maintained by other parties, our mowing contractor will come in once a month and mow those KDOT right-of-ways. So.
For free.
Well, no, the city pays
It's
for
in
it.
our budget.
Countryside's not. We're not rebuilding Countryside, right?
No, because they said, just like if
I just want to
right, no, if
clarification
Millhaven
here.
stopped, or Trinity Lutheran Church stopped, or anybody else who's mowing it stopped, you would, under your policy, we would look at that and say, do you want to add that? Do you want to change your policy if the cost is increasing? When we brought that back to you a year ago, we said, here's the cost, and they're going to stop mowing it, so we added it to the list. We've been mowing it, we said, it's not going to meet your standards, so if you want to do it more frequently than that, that cost is on you. So they did that this year. Well, guess what? It didn't meet their standards, and they would like to request that the city go to mowing that 2 times a month.
At no additional cost.
And no
no additional
cost
cost
to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, the cost to add that is,
Can we create a special benefit district?
would be, right now it's $120 per mow. There's the opportunity, we haven't seen the renewal contract from KLM for this year, there's up to a 3% escalation clause, so if they went to the full 3%, you're looking at $988.80 a year to add a second mow.
So where is this, so I drive Lamar, Shawnee Mission Parkway every day, do I drive by this every single day?
Countryside right away is between Lamar and Woodson. Doesn't go, because Trinity Lutheran goes from Woodson to Knoll. So you're from
South side or north side?
north side.
South side's Melvin.
So the Countryside Homes Association is requesting the council consider adding a second mow to the contract.
Do we need to call him Clayton Ford and tell him we don't want to go ours?
I'm not interested. If that's what you're looking for, I'm not interested.
What's Public Works position?
I don't think you do it. You have a council policy,
Yeah,
let's
I
change
mean,
your
the
council
policy says
policy to mow
that
everybody else.
it's monthly,
Yeah.
and what says if you go to bi-monthly there, that
That we
everywhere
can
else
start the
doesn't want to go
bi-monthly.
And
bi-monthly.
this was a contested budget item where we wanted to reduce mowing, period. So anybody sitting at this table who was involved in that discussion, and it was a heated discussion, it was very somewhat passionate, but there's been a lot of other passionate topics, who says support,
Is there any stipulation in the policy that says somebody from Countryside couldn't offer their own time to mow it themselves?
They were mowing it themselves before we started, they just couldn't afford.
They hired a mower. and
They hired a mower and
they
it was
plant
getting
trees
onerous.
And they lug water.
And so we took this on to help them, but they knew when we took it on that it would be monthly.
Just because it matches up with our policy.
Correct.
What'd you say, John?
That's what matches up with our policy, is that it's monthly.
Yeah, I'm not interested in twice a month.
I'm not
If
interested.
they want twice a month,
So we're going to change the policy and make it.
it's a month.
Okay, so I'm hearing no support to take it
Is this on the
forward
agenda?
to amend the contract.
This was just another.
Other items.
It's poor people in Countryside.
They can't raise their dues because of their
Covenants.
covenants, and so.
But that still cuts their mow bill in half if they would want to do some of that, what the city has participated in this.
How many homes are there in Countryside?
170.
Well, it depends on what, it says both countrysides, there were two countrysides at one point.
Countryside used to be a
North and south.
village.
Oh. Okay, all right, I'm done. We're done.
Next one, call
Thank you so
Jackie.
much.
Mr. Nichols, not Jackie.
Oh. You should have started with that.
Wanted to give it
No.
here.
So are we ready to go ahead and jump into Finance Administration Committee meeting? Okay, so the first item on the agenda is the Gateway Benefit District Ordinance. Laura?
I think we need chocolate before we take on this one.
This is a no-brainer, this is just
So,
a
at
cheat
your December 17th meeting, you took the first steps to get the benefit district put in place. So you approved the statement of final costs and an assessment roll certification notice, a public hearing form of notice, and you established your January 21st, 2015 council meeting as the date for the public hearing. So we will have a public hearing at the council meeting on the 21st. And Tom be here? He may be here. He may. I don't know. He may come and he may actually protest understand the development agreement says he will not protest this, but
Who knows?
Great story.
And he doesn't have to protest in person.
he does not have to protest in person. He can protest in writing. So following your December council meeting, we published all the required notices, sent notice to the property owners, which in this case is one is the Gateway District. This would just then, after the public hearing, then you would adopt this ordinance that basically then finalizes those costs. Then the way a benefit district works is then we would publish that ordinance, and then there is a 30-day period following publication of that ordinance that the property owner can pay that assessment in full if they so desire. So that once that 30-day window closes, then all of our steps in order to certify the cost for that district are done. And we're simply waiting and holding that for our opportunity to provide that to the county to spread that across the tax bill. So we're done with every step. The benefit district is finalized. All those legal steps are taken. The county only allows you to certify it once each year.
Thank you, Laura. Any questions?
No.
Take it to council?
Sure.
Wait, this can't be consent, we're going to public hearing. Oh. Okay. All right. Number 2, the 2015 legislative policy. Laura.
Each year, we put together a legislative policy. We work with Johnson County and the other cities in the county to kind of look at a joint program, as well as we tend to follow and pull items from the League of Kansas Municipalities program. We try to put this together so that anyone from the city is going to City Hall Days and to Peak, which I believe is February 4th this year. You have this available. If not, we simply put a letter with this and send it to our legislators so that they have an idea, and then we, as needed, as issues arise during the session, staff and or council may be tapped to go in to testify or look at some additional issues. This is pretty straightforward legislative agenda. It looks like ones we've passed in previous years. Really the primary theme at our level is preserving home rule and local authority and trying to keep that decision making as close to the people as we possibly can. Whether that relates to arbitrary kind of spending caps or tax lids. You all as the governing body go through that process. You hear from your constituents. You sort of know what your needs are in your community and how to best address those. There are already legal requirements in the statutory budget process for public hearing notices. You can't raise your mill levies without notifying the public and going through. So those protections, I think, are in place. We expect that the partisan election issue and making elections partisan and moving those to the fall will still be at the top of the list as we go through the session. This year, we believe that really blurs and dilutes the focus on municipal issues. So would take a position to have elections at the local level remain nonpartisan and stay in the spring. We also really encourage no further erosion of our tax base, either through exemption, creating sales tax exemptions or exemptions for special use, special interest groups. As we kind of continue to chip away at that, it certainly impacts our budget. And so I'll be happy to address any of the specific issues included in here. Encouraging the state to continue pass-through revenue with the fuel tax and the alcohol tax. I think we can expect to see if gas prices don't recover this year. I think we're already going to see some just budgetary impacts and reductions as a result of that, and special highway revenues. Again, allowing us the ability to use and evaluate the need for and the use of economic development incentive tools at the local level on a project-by-project basis. Supporting investment in transportation and really, asking the state not to pull back revenues to balance their own budget at the city's expense.
Any questions at all?
Do you want any of this by Lawrence Andre?
Other than it's been posted.
Lawrence would take this issue, and then 90 minutes later, we would be done.
I think it's pretty straightforward. I think the things that we've identified as important are important to our city. Council consent agenda?
Yes, it's a good overview, Laura. Thank you. Good job.
Yes, thanks for putting it all together. Very appreciative.
And thanks to Glenn, who really did
Glenn,
that for me.
Okay, good
State,
job.
local, federal.
Okay, IT services, Johnson County Interlocal.
Yes, so since 2011, you may remember we used to contract with Net Standard for our IT support. And I think for many years we were spending in excess of $100,000, $150,000 to support our IT needs throughout the city. We transitioned and really kind of pushed Johnson County IT to think about providing service with their department and the size of their department for us in 2011, and they've been supporting our needs at City Hall and the community center since then. The police department, their needs and their situation was a little bit more specialized, but in 2013 we amended that agreement to bring them on board as well. I think we continue to be satisfied with the service. Since that time, they've also partnered with Roland Park, Fairway, Mission Hills. So they're having a stronger presence, which means there are people in this neck of the woods more often and available to us as well. So it's time to renew that agreement. They're recommending renewal for General City Hall, so City Hall Public Works Community Center at $24,545.78, and the Police Department at $18,222.50. That's based on a number of users, so it might increase slightly if we add or decrease people, but we think that's a pretty stable number for this year. So $42,700. Our 15 budget included a total between police and general overhead line items of $74,500. So well within budget. We also use that line item to support hardware and software upgrades that we might need to do, so we still have sufficient flexibility, I think, to do that.
Or John might get his fiber connection.
Yep, that's right. So anyway, we would recommend renewing the agreement with Johnson County for IT service.
What's it pay in 2014?
It was a little bit more expensive in 13 and 14 because we were transitioning equipment for the police department as well, so the costs were higher. In 11 as well, because we rolled capital costs into, so we upgraded PCs and did some of those kinds of things, which brought the cost.
Now, did they provide like service? I mean, Dave Malloy did a lot in the police department.
And he still does a lot in the police department, but yes, they have a help desk. We call in just like if we were sitting in a county building. You email the help desk or you call the help desk and you got somebody who responds back, and if they can handle it over the phone or they can log in remotely, great. If they need to send somebody out, they'll send somebody out to deal with those issues.
We get a better rate because we were trendsetters in the Northeast, early adopters.
I'm not.
All right, I approve it. I'm saving the ticket for
Consent?
Finally.
Number 4, destruction of certain records. Martha.
Certain.
Yes, exactly.
Not the uncertain ones. The uncertain ones.
This is just the resolution that we approve or put forward every year for identifying which records can be destroyed per state statute.
Should you run this by John Weber again?
No.
And if we as a council vote to approve this,
No, I'm serious.
and then they
This is
come
another
back and
issue.
find that we've destroyed something we weren't supposed to, are we held liable? I'm just kidding. I say take it to council.
No, this is really just encourages us as a staff,
To get rid
because
of
the record
purge.
retention manual, yes, because it really says, okay, we can,
Yes,
and we still probably keep 2 or 3 more years beyond this.
Yes. Have you been in my office?
If you've been in Martha's office or the
It's hard to go through that, isn't it?
We added.
We've got
And this
hard
says like,
copies.
Yeah.
it's like duplicate receipts, well, why can't you?
All right, so take it to council consent.
Yes.
Okay, great. Johnson Drive project update, John and Emily.
Here we come.
It looks nice, John.
Thank you.
Good job.
So far.
They haven't torn it back up yet.
We're not gonna tear it down.
We won't let that
People
city- we
chain
will not let
themselves to
that
the
city
railroad
take
tracks.
that.
Emily will chain herself, tie herself to Johnson Drive.
I will.
Yes, she will.
We
Right
might
across
join you,
the
Emily.
street.
We actually
I know,
might
I
join
have
you.
friends in
Yes,
this
yes.
fight. I'm up there, yeah.
I'm really anxious to hear about the streetlights.
Streetlights. They're, after speaking to everybody here in the past few weeks, they said first of the year, so I've been working fast and furious to contact the contractor and the
Is
vendors.
that 2015?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
so I've been working to get with them to get an updated timeline and have yet to kind of hear back from the vendors on the,
The manufacturer told you first of the year?
yes.
Okay.
So we're working to get that updated and get a better idea of what we're working with.
I guess I misunderstood. I thought
Well,
we were,
they said first of the year, so I was.
I saw some city administrators.
Which could be like
reported
first
late
quarter.
November, early December at one point, didn't we?
Well, that was before they had a fire in their production.
Yeah, the fire
facility.
did cause a
No,
problem.
even after the fire, I thought they were talking about
December, I did too.
Yeah.
So we're doing our best to push that along, and I'm on the phone with them at least once a day saying, hey,
You
we gotta
can
get.
So we're thinking
have Pat
first
bring
quarter,
in there.
for sure, and definitely won't go beyond July.
Let's
Oh,
not
gosh.
use big terms.
I don't know that I can make it that.
No,
way.
no,
So
absolutely.
when the streetlights get
First
here,
of
we've had
the year.
questions about how quickly they will be installed.
Correct. Capital Electric talked with Rick Carmack. He said that with the decorative lights, they're a little bit harder than your typical everyday street light. So there'll be some assembly and then putting them up. They'll run them in their sequential runs out of the controller. So that way, as they put them up, they can start getting them lit up because they run in a series. So they basically run from the controller and then pull to pull to pull to pull to pull.
They're gonna go across Thompson Drive and
No.
The conduit's already in, so all they're doing is putting poles up and pulling wire. So they said with the decorative poles, it takes them a little bit longer. They said for all the poles, it'd probably take them about 3 weeks to get everything up.
That's not bad.
So, but he's got crews ready to go, and he's chomping at the bit too. So, right now, as you guys probably know, we've got some temporary lights up, kind of surrounding those controllers, just to, get us some light through there for the time being.
I think those business owners would appreciate that.
Yeah, and it's kind of the least we can do. At least try to get some of that lit up so you got light as you're coming through that corridor. So. And it worked out to where kind of some of the places that stayed open later kind of surrounded those controllers. So that helped a little bit too.
And also, just talking about, I think it's important that we can leave the Christmas lights up as long as possible.
You can.
You know what I mean? I think,
Yes.
right? I mean, if there's no problem with just continue to leave them up, it does add light down that corridor.
I mean, in past years, we'll start getting,
People being
you know,
irritated.
we'll start hearing criticisms from people because we can't even pull our Christmas lights down. So we'll have to be ready for that sort of flag.
So it depends on how much flag. you
But
get.
you're right. I mean, it's true. We were ready for them to go up for that reason too. So it's just, I think it's
we're
our
darned if we
judgment
do
call.
and darned if we don't, because they complain if we
Yeah.
leave them up too
How
long,
late's
they're
too late,
complaining.
right.
That's a good
Probably-
rationale for leaving them up.
Well, I
Yeah.
think, and I think it might be beneficial to throw something out there or talk to a few of the
Yeah.
business owners and be like, hey, we're thinking about leaving the Christmas lights up a little bit longer, the festive holiday, winter lights up longer.
Right.
Oh,
To
that's
facilitate, ambiance down the street before, at least through first quarter of 2015.
I did. We'll take them down.
First quarter.
We can just leave them up
Right,
all year.
spring, sorry.
Then we don't have to mess with Tony anymore.
Hey, I know where all the plugs are, so I'll just go and
Yeah,
plug
you're
them
trained
in.
up now.
What happened to Pyramid, Sears building?
Oh,
They're not on.
I called him a couple times. He said that there was a deal inside.
They haven't
that-
on.
Huh.
Could I ask a question, just kind of off the cuff? Has anybody from Hobby Lobby come in and talked to you about their departure date? Okay.
Nor would I expect them to.
Have you gotten any bad reports about Johnson Drive? It just looks so great.
Personally, no. A lot of positive things.
That's great. It
Um,
looks wonderful.
It does look awesome. Well, the investment coming in, huh?
Yeah.
It's
And
awesome.
I was excited about the Dickinson Square, that block.
We went to the bar tonight and it was cool.
We did?
Saw you
Yeah.
guys there tonight, so.
The bar.
It was really cool.
I don't go to bars.
He doesn't do shots either. Do we anticipate like an increase in property value along Johnson Drive at all, or?
We'll see.
I doubt we would see it this year in the valuation. Paul Welcome is scheduled. I just had an email yesterday, so he comes out every year and kind of tells us what they're anticipating. I don't think that it will catch up at this point, so in another year, we may have a better idea if we start to see some of that.
So maybe I missed this, but Gigi's Cupcakes is coming. Like, did we do a big on our website or Facebook
Well, no,
page?
because they've had their sign up for months and there's nobody in there.
When are they
They
coming?
haven't-
I don't know. They haven't come in and applied for.
They haven't come and applied for a business license or anything. You've got to reach out to them.
They're not real serious at this point.
Well, I think they are, but they're just still in the.
They're just not,
Darn, I was getting all excited.
I know.
Speaking of Johnson Drive.
we've got cupcake place down on the market.
But you
Well, right,
have,
but I know,
so you
but
punch list items,
Gigi's
nothing
bringing it out
significant.
from there
And then the landscape,
And the
the rest of the
landscaping in the
landscaping in the spring, perennials, the stuff that wouldn't have made it through the winter, they're gonna come back the beginning of May and finish it all up.
More
So,
trees.
Trees, flowers, grasses.
Hey, great job on the snow, even though I would have liked to see just a little bit of snow covering on the street for a brief moment, just to appreciate.
Oh, we don't want it.
I
there
know.
at all.
Get up a little early.
We gotta get it gone.
On Lamar, you can't get up early enough, that's all I have to
Was
say,
it
these guys are
difficult
on it.
plowing the table on Johnson Drive?
You know, no, it really wasn't. I was a little concerned, and I was actually the first one to go across it because I was curious. And, yeah, just take your time, and it acts just like, you know, as long as you're going the speed limit.
Well,
People
talk
slow
about
down for
Johnson.
everyone. Do we
Tell the guys
have
to
issues
slow
with,
down.
do we have issues on, is that causing any traffic concerns? or
Those
anything?
speed tables
Yeah.
have actually slowed people down, but I will tell you the rest of Johnson Drive, we just had somebody at 58 miles an hour on Johnson Drive.
58?
Yeah.
I told Pat,
At-
he's
at
gotta
Johnson
slow it
and
down.
Beverly, going towards the speed table.
Holy cow.
So, yeah, because I see the tickets and the daily activities and everything.
How could
But-
somebody
so,
get
yeah,
tickets?
the speed tables work.
Where were they at?
Johnson and Beverly. Going eastbound towards the speed table.
Yeah, they had to really pick
I'll
up
tell
some
you,
speed.
it-
It had to be a young kid.
It's gonna, there's probably gonna be, there's gonna be some time where we gotta adjust to that. The speed table, the funny thing about it is when we were sitting in the construction office and you looked outside and watched people go over it, every time somebody came close to it, it was brake lights. Everybody's slowing down. Everybody's slowing down.
Yeah, regardless of their speed.
Right.
How's the enforced parking going on Johnson Drive?
We checked the place today, and we've had 2 incidents, one related, well, both in fact related to owners parking in front too long.
Back in his place?
And another, 2 locations. And so,
The same block?
Vacuum
no,
cleaner?
different block.
Oh, good.
Vacuum
So-
cleaner?
No, I don't think so.
Because he's parking there all day.
Yeah, so it's the kind of thing where the rule goes out and now we all need to play by these rules, and so we're all looking at our windows and seeing if everybody else is playing by the same rules. So I know Ben's guys have been out and talking, and that's the tack we're taking so far, is that, hey, listen, you've been reported and we're trying to play by these new rules. And so I think it's just gonna continue to be, you know, a little peer pressure, but also the benefit. And I think as things keep rolling, those parking spaces, you know, they're gonna see the benefit and get used to changing their habits a little bit. And I've talked to some of them who are parking in different areas, and, you know, make no bones about it. I mean, they understand why, and they're a part of the solution. So I think so far it's a manageable number and maybe even a predictable number. So we're just gonna
Not
go
very
from there,
many,
just check
not
it.
very many,
Right.
right.
Blocks every day.
Right. I think so far so good. I do.
Yeah, it's a little bit more encouraging.
One quick question.
Mhm.
Heading right by Don Cholico's, the sign that says that the lane is off. Why is that sign up?
They have that there for the Keystone development.
Well, I thought so, but
It's
I
just
mean,
been too cold, they're not doing any work.
they haven't done any, but since that sign's been up.
They haven't ever had to drop that lane yet. They anticipated dropping it, but they didn't have to. They're gonna get started on their stormwater work the 19th of this month. So there might be a little bit of that.
All right.
One thing I could probably ask them to do is at least turn that sign around so people don't drive past it and think there's
Well,
something
what's so
close there.
funny is if you've been further west on Johnson Drive over in Overland Park, you know, that, they've had that sign for over there, you know, where filling station is, kind of like along there. I don't know how many times it says get over and you don't have to get over. But people, it's become, I think, a lazy construction practice to not put you know, turn the sign around or put you know, something over the sign saying you have to get over.
Okay, John, what about the light at Broadmoor and Martley? Have we talked any more about left-hand turn signal going east on Martley?
You
I
know,
would like that too.
before, you know, we talked about that the left turn signal wasn't a warranted movement. I think what we're gonna do is when the Wellstone gets built, is have Olson come back out and do another signal analysis and see if those left turns are warranted then.
Because the other
And
day,
they
there
very
was
well may
4
be.
cars in front of me, and I never did make it through the turn east.
You had to wait a whole
I had to wait, I did.
I just hate that
You had
when
to wait the whole
you
sign.
Wow.
I did. I was afraid the cops.
She ran the light.
Yes, I did.
She drove through Johnny's parking lot.
I did.
Hey,
I'm not
That's
opposed to
my
doing
life
that.
too.
But,
I just hate waiting for.
yeah, we'll have Olson look at that signal again, kind of once to, and let Johnson Drive, you know, sometime spring, summertime, we'll look into that. That way, you know, kind of traffic patterns are all back to
Post
normal.
office closes.
Oh,
Is there a rumor that that post office would close?
forever.
For
I
years?
love that post office.
So have we talked to Lisa more about emission signs? Open emission signs?
We haven't specifically. The problem is they don't need anything. There's no incentive for them to invest in that because we've already negotiated their deal and they have we don't have any leverage for that. They've been in to kind of talk to us about some other things that they might be interested in, and so I'm thinking when they come back. Exactly. Martin, and I will share this, after we had that conversation, Martin pulled up the studies and some of what we had talked about in the past about entry signage and what it might look like. So we might want to circulate that, but the
I
Brinshore.
should send you guys the link to that guy's presentation. He was very enthusiastic. It's a 50-minute presentation. He's very entertaining and very enthusiastic, but it is almost an hour. But it was just really, really great. Not only just the signs, but also talking about how, you know, a McDonald's comes into your community. It doesn't have to look like a McDonald's. Like, you should see some of these McDonald's in like Cape Cod. It looks like a house. I mean, they're just beautiful. And his whole premise is you don't have to just settle for whatever. You can ask for these types of things. So I'll look for that.
Talking to
and send it
Brinshore,
you. Yeah. All right, thank you.
While we're on the topic of Johnson Drive, I was encouraged what you had to say in your weekend report about what Ellen Reed, and they are open to the idea of on-street parking potentially.
In fact, John was working with Olson to sketch up some options for on-street parking, so we can.
Off of Johnson Drive.
Off of Johnson Drive and off of
That would
Beverly,
provide so
actually.
much relief down there to that area, right across from Becky and right.
But correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, they would be hoping to provide parking for the people who use their building.
Yes and no, but it would be they understand that it would be public parking like everything else along Johnson Drive.
So it would be 2-hour parking.
So the question will be the cost. They would be looking probably to the city to construct that potentially. So that's why
Which we did on the other part. We should acquire that right away potentially.
So in fact, Martin, you just
Way open to that
yesterday.
There would be a lot of benefit
Yep,
to that.
absolutely. So we're getting sketches, drawings, and costs pulled together so we can have that conversation.
And because I think the biggest benefit is consistency, being consistent.
And have we got any cost estimates on that place down by Harleywood for that parking lot? To make that nice?
The lot that we own across the street from Harleywood?
Yeah.
Right. No. Yeah. Yes. In fact,
We've been talking about it.
It's a mess.
It is, nobody wants to park there.
It's a recommendation from the Parking Johnson Drive Task Force. Wasn't it, John?
Yes, sir, it was.
It was, I bet you
remember.
was. So I was just wondering, to be thinking about that and what it's gonna cost and what it's gonna take and where we find money.
And then the Apollo building, what's going on there? The old Apollo building right there by Goodson's?
they're a private property owner and they're remodeling it.
They're angry. No, I'm sorry.
Nope. They haven't identified a particular tenant. I think they're looking at, they have the sign, I believe, indicated as medical/retail. So I don't know. They have not, at least to me, mentioned any
When you see
specific
the
tenants.
prices of it, you'll have a heart attack and you need to get the medical facility.
Starbucks?
Filed for permits 2 weeks ago.
So will it look like an old Taco Bell building?
No, they're gonna take out a lot of facade. It's gonna be redone.
I hope it looks like the pretty one in Prairie Village.
I'm sure.
Village Shops. Well, it's not a Starbucks, it's owned by somebody else, but they're just putting a Starbucks in there.
It's gonna look quite a bit nicer. They're taking out some of the tile roof and the different things.
Are they taking up the drive-through? They like boarded up the drive-through. Was it because a glass broke or something?
It will have a drive-through.
Okay. I'm like, it's gotta.
Well, that would be fun. Maybe it'd be open really late at night.
And then
The volume would be really high.
Yeah.
Debbie can answer all the neighbors' questions.
I just all over.
Maybe you sit in-store there.
Drinking and answering.
Holding the light
Like,
back.
what do you want me to get you? I'm in the drive-through.
I have a question. When exactly is Martin's last day here?
Martin?
Friday, the 20, I don't know. what
Third.
day that is.
Third.
Third.
Are we having a party?
We are. I think we're gonna have something from our
On
national
the
council meeting
24th?
on the 21st.
Really?
Yes.
I was not aware of that.
I know, we just
Well,
decided
you have to
today
be
here.
here.
So you have to be here for the council meeting anyway, so we figured.
Show up.
We'll have agenda items that I have to go.
That's right.
I'll be here.
Well, since you're so familiar with Mission and we're part, we belong to Mark, will you be spending a lot of time here at Mission, continuing to help us out?
That's a very, very good question. There's actually a couple of things that the city of Mission will be working on with Mark, and it may very well be me coming back and working with some of those projects. Turkey Creek Trail being one of those.
And they have a meeting tomorrow night from open house, 4 to 6:30 on
That is correct.
transportation.
Is it the bike?
And the bike.
That would be the kind of work that I'd be doing. It would be that kind of.
Okay, thank you, thank
And
you.
who's going to the State of the City stream? We have a table? Oh.
We do have a table.
You're going, right? Yes. Martha's
Mark's,
going.
you're gonna.
I know, she's going.
She's a good time.
Look at her face, she looks excited, doesn't she?
She does.
Very excited.
I believe she's a keynote speaker.
She doesn't know that.
Over your dead body.
You get a plus sign for that.
And I would just like to say a quick thanks. We've been trying to start cleaning up around City Hall a little bit. I don't know if you've noticed at all. We have a lot of work left to do, but thanks to John's crews we create a trash pile and they come get it every week, but.
Christmas stuff?
Oh.
I'm sure.
No, and then Christie's staff stripped and re-waxed the floors in the lobby last night, so they look really great.
Thank you, Christie.
Just trying to do some things that this building needs a little TLC.
Yeah.
So, just trying to make some progress, but.
Are you gonna have a painting party? Pat, sign Pat up for that.
A painting?
I want to see a little brick replacement out
Yeah,
front there.
that.
You know what that is? Are you talking about the brick that's bleeding the white or the stone on the?
No, on the
ground.
ground where it's all.
Out by the flag.
Ah,
Yeah, good. That's the first thing people see, they're walking up to our city hall.
sure.
Looks a little shoddy.
I don't even know
And I
what you're
don't think it would be a
talking
major deal to repair it. You don't even know what I'm talking about?
Yep, I do.
I think we ought to have sell the bricks. People have their names on the Shepherd brick, Shepherd bricks.
Oh,
Frapping.
The Shepherd brick. I like it.
Shepherd.
Okay, any other items?
Just an FYI that we're going to hold our first Johnson Drive meeting next Tuesday at 6 at the Community Center. Emily show. And keep in mind, Stephen Lucas was going to co-chair with me, and he won't be here. So if anybody would like to step up and take that, I'll be in Mexico from the 2nd through the 12th of February. I will miss the second meeting. So
How often is this for me?
Once a month on the second Tuesday.
And what
This is the conversation about the triangle.
No,
this is
keeping
looking at
momentum going on Johnson Drive.
the options for what we want in places.
Increasing businesses and or customers
Density. Yeah.
along the corridor.
So what's the other one that's talking with Roland Park? What is that?
That is looking at that triangle that is part in Roland Park, part in Mission, part in Fairway. But Fairway has such a little tip that they said, we don't need to be part of this joint discussion. But because there's a lot of right-of-way cleanup that needs to happen, trying to work jointly with those two cities to come up with a vision for what would need to happen, and then we go through an RFP process to see if we can attract some.
And who do we have on that committee?
Amy and
Brad
Brad Davidson, who's a planning commissioner, and then Stephen Lucas had been on it. The
Right.
Roland Park, if you remember when the Interlocal came through at your December council meeting, and Roland Park had a couple of changes about adding up to. So the mayor had asked that
governing body, we would change the
Yes.
governing body
and that we replace Stephen, we asked Dave to replace Stephen, so Dave, I think, is looking at his schedule.
Yeah, I'm a maybe at best, so if there's anybody, I don't think I have the time truthfully to do it, but, so if anybody is interested in co-chairing with Amy on that task force, that'd be time well spent.
And when will they meet?
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure
I
out.
don't know that it's really a co-chairing situation.
Or serve
It's a
with
steering-
me.
it's a steering committee,
Yeah,
and
steering
I'm not a
committee.
chair.
we have a meeting Friday to try to put together the staff, to try to put together a calendar which we'll present to the steering committee so they can kind of tweak it.
In the, wasn't it like a meeting like a month or every other month? What was our?
I think we envisioned something like 4 steering committee meetings and a couple of public meetings, public touch points.
And
Yeah, I'd be interested in
Over
that
5-6
work
months.
for you.
Okay.
And the other thing I will tell you is that we're getting ready to kick off the comp plan and the Parks Master Plan process, both of which will have kind of steering committees that will work with the consultants. We're looking at some council liaisons to that so that you all have touch points so you can, I know you've said you wanted to be connected to those processes, as well as board and commission members. So we're trying to there's a lot that's coming together here in these first couple of weeks with all of those contracts that we organized. It's very exciting, but we're trying to get.
I'm a little interested in the parks. Potentially, but I need to understand because I will help. I would like to help with the Johnson Drive one just because it's a lot of work too. Yeah.
Just let me bring you up to date on the families. Did you all get that letter I sent out from the
Thank
you. Well, not only that, just a couple of other ones. We had a lady who was 52 years old when she came in, and she had all these packages. We had all these packages for her. And she said, are all those for our family? And Kathy says, yes. And there's a 52-year-old female here. She said, is that you? And the lady said, yes. And she started crying. She said, I haven't received a Christmas gift since my mother died. And I was in the kitchen, and she came in the kitchen and just hugged me and bawled, literally bawled. I just couldn't believe it. It was just amazing. Since her mother died, she hadn't received a Christmas gift.
If it wasn't for me, nobody in my family would give presents after my mom died because nobody in my family wants to do presents. And my mom was the present lady. So that sucks when you have somebody in your family who gives presents and they go away and nobody else wants to do it.
Well, and then we had the leather jacket that, the leather, that's right. The daughter at North wanted, and so I talked to the mother. I went over, and she's a foster mother. She's not the regular mother, and she said, she started crying, and she says, she will be so thrilled, and we gave her a gift card so that she can get her letter, the numbers, that she needs, and then I told her to call me. We hadn't sewed on. And then the grandmother was there, and she said, can I cry too?
No.
So,
That's awesome.
there was a lot
That's
of tears and a
great.
lot of hugs. And we added up, Kathy added up, we had 109 in the families that we served. We had 26 families, but that included 109 people that we took care of.
So this is
And
the first
took care
year
of
I
them well.
went, and oh my gosh, it is overwhelming walking in that room with all those presents. I'm like, we're never getting this done. And people just plug it away, just plug it away. There's people in this.
And by the
Where
time
were
you're
all those
done
families?
at 4, it's gone.
Where are they located, all these
They're all
families?
northeast. Look at the names from North, from Santa Fe, and from Rushton.
Okay.
So they're all northeast, with the exception of 3 that we've always taken care of. One lady, she's an elderly lady. Ben, what'd you take her?
Took her a Christmas tree.
Nice.
She didn't have a Christmas tree, and she said this year she didn't put one up, and Christy said you can have the one at City Hall, so.
I have one.
I know, but what did this just say to you?
So she said, so Christy said you can have it, so Ben, and who went with you?
Mike Palmer.
Yeah, and so they took the Christmas tree to her, and we got this thank you note, and she says, thank you for the Christmas turkey and food. We loved all the other gifts, and especially the tree and caps. It is so beautiful. We appreciate everything. She's, what, 92, Ben?
Yeah.
Wow, no kidding.
And she's raising, she has 2 grandkids that are living with her, and so she didn't have any lights, Ben said they couldn't even find her.
Where is she?
Maple.
Yeah, like 52nd and Maple. But yeah, she didn't have any lights plugged in the living room, and yeah, we moved some of her furniture around for her.
And she said she just couldn't get one up this year, so Ben came back and told us, so Christy scoured up.
At 92, she's a trooper, man.
Oh, I mean, like at Thanksgiving, they had to carry her turkey and put it in the fridge because she's so frail. She
Oh, yeah,
couldn't carry
she
it, so
probably
the
could.
police took it into the fridge and moved
She could
things
crack some
around.
ribs.
So it's just a big thank you to everybody because everybody was very, very, very appreciative.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Susie.
Susie, did you
Yes.
reconsider giving up your spot on the MCU? What?
I'm gonna work on her tomorrow. Just come
She
to the
big
meeting
shoes to
tomorrow.
fill, big
Sorry.
shoes to fill.
We had this discussion when I was in Kentucky this over Christmas, and so I even had to send them a letter of my resignation so that they were sure that I really
Your
resigned.
family's adamant.
They wanted to make sure that I resigned. Mitch said, will you send me a copy of that letter? So I did. No, I'm going to keep the families, and I'm going to do the magazine and
Yeah,
families.
good. You're a good girl.
You are, Susan.
Well, I don't know about that. We have a lot of good help, and so we're sending out a note to everybody, and Bruce running off copies, so everybody will see what we've done and the numbers that we've taken care of. I just think it's phenomenal that the
Yeah.
city can say that we have 109 individuals.
Did you end up with enough money to take care of any tags that were still on the trees?
We went shopping, Debbie went shopping, and I overdrew. I spent more than I took in.
You did?
Well, probably.
You'll find
We'll
that
find
out.
that out tomorrow. I don't know.
Did you have a
She
little
calls
city
me
credit
every
card?
day. I'm adjusting these two credit limits over the phone. I don't know, can you call a credit card company? Sure. You know, I mean, literally.
What worked out really good, I got most of my family stuff at Kohl's, and all the Kohl's cash I got to give them the cash for, so if they had something extra they needed.
That is,
cash
that's
for it.
just phenomenal. that
Well, and you gave, what, did you give that lady that?
Yeah, after Susie went shopping, we had one more family that we needed to help take care of from the police department. Susie gave me, I think it was a $340 worth of Kohl's cash for her and her daughter to go shop. So,
Because she wasn't on the tree. Ben found her, and so she wasn't on the tree, so we.
I always give Dave all my Kohl's cash.
It's a great thing. I mean, it's
I
wonderful.
don't even know what it is, I just said it.
But if you have used
I'm highly invested in Kohl's.
Susie needs wrapping paper. We're short, we went through wrapping paper this year, so as you're cleaning out things, or if you feel inclined to
We went through
buy
some wrapping
something that's
paper.
on sale,
And you know, you get those packages in the mail from the lung, all these people send me donations, we'll bring them because.
because we were we wiped you out of wrapping paper.
We did. I
this
didn't
year.
have to buy any this year, which was great. We didn't buy any wrapping paper, ribbon, scotch tape, anything, so that was good, so, but next year we will.
You got ugly paper left for next
Well, we can make pretty bows.
Yeah, Jennifer is the queen of the bows.
We can make pretty
And you know that
bows.
little girl that got the American Doll? She probably didn't care what that paper was like.
That's probably right.
When her mom came in, she said, "Are all these packages for me?" And Kathy said, "Yes, they are." And she said, "And there's an American Girl doll under the tree." And this mother cried, and she said, "You know, she's asked for an American Girl doll for 2 years." And she said, "We couldn't afford it." So she said, "I just went out and bought a pine tree, paid $10 for one." And she said, "It has no lights on it. I'm just going to put it there to make the living room look nice and Christmassy." And she just cried, and she says, "Now I get to put all these presents in them." So.
Just made you feel good all the time, didn't it?
It does. It just did. You know,
Wonderful, Susie.
It was just a miracle. So it's just phenomenal, and everybody just pulls together.
Thank you.
Also, yeah, also in your mailbox, because we won't see you before this, is Ron Schaefer's farewell reception. So, please.
When are they having a mayoral election? What's happening with that?
They will.
Their council president stepping in,
Yes.
it's short term.
They are not going to, what their city administrator said in the meeting I was in today is that they will wait, because they have elections in April.
Oh.
So they'll.
Yeah, so she's not very long.
Yep. And I think I don't know they've had anybody file. I don't know, it was interesting, there's lots of filing going on. The city manager's luncheon today, and everybody but us is having elections, and so everybody was talking about who's filed and who hasn't filed.
We have lots of interest in Green Village for that seat.
You know, everybody got their school ballot today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anything else? We've done everything possible to make this go an hour to last as long as the CDC.
But we still didn't.
I
Thank
appreciate
you
the
so much.
everybody's effort. So, we adjourned, I guess.
Thank
Thank you, guys.
Happy New Year, guys.
And I want you to know my